distinguished guests, veterans, diplomats, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, I must compliment Chanakya Forum and Major Gaurav Arya in particular for organizing this conclave on the contemporary theme of Rising India in the Amrit Kal of a nation. Today I'll be talking about Atmanirbharta as a concept actually, its relevance and its role in enhancing defense preparedness of a nation. India as a nation is on an exhilarating journey of opportunity, innovation and transformation. We plan to become a major player in field of manufacturing, especially defense manufacturing and defense research and development through a range of policy changes by the government and initiatives of the private industry and entrepreneurs. I see this because I can see the green shoots of transformation and change, at least in the non-defense sector of our economy, partly alluded to by Mr. Talwar, Chairman, PhD. India is emerging as the third largest ecosystem for the startups globally, and over 84,000 startups recognized by the government exist today. As on September last year, we are home to 107 unicorns, out of which 63 were added in the last 2 calendar years only. This signifies the upward trajectory of transformation that the nation has embarked upon. In terms of nominal GDP, we are already the fifth largest economy, and by 2024, we hope to overtake Germany to become the fourth largest economy in the world. Economic growth, coupled with our soft power, technological advancements, demographic dividend, democratic and inclusive governance, acceptability at international and regional forums, ability to stand up to coercion and intimidation to defend our territory, and consolidation of our diplomatic, information, military, and economic instruments of national power are contributing to the rise of India's comprehensive national power. During my address today, I'll be focusing upon the military aspects of this concept of DIME and how to enhance it through this concept of Atmanirbharta. Allow me to begin by underscoring the importance of indigenous defense manufacturing for India. For long, actually, India has been a major arms importer, and consequently, the operational preparedness of our forces has been dependent heavily on foreign OEMs for military hardware. I believe such a situation is not sustainable in the emerging geopolitical environment. Let me explain this briefly. You see, the global security environment currently is in a state of flux, and the new order is yet to crystallize. New alignments, new alliances, new linkages, new partnerships are on the anvil, which give rise to a sense of uncertainty among nations, among global and regional institutions, and even among economic unions and alliances. Post-World War II, the transatlantic Anglo-Saxon alliance could not unite Europe the way actually the Russian invasion of Ukraine has done. On the other hand, Russia and China are getting closer, with Iran actually joining this particular bandwagon. India has close relationships both with the West as well as the Russians. That places us very uniquely in this geopolitical construct. A quick regional scan of Europe and Asia would indicate that nations are bracing up for the looming prospects of uncertainty, instability, and a major change in the global order. This is reflected in the changed national security strategies of many nations, besides from the increasing defense budgets of most countries. Let's look at a few pointers in this regard. Japan. Japan's defense-oriented policy has added counter-strike capability in the recently released National Security Strategy in 2022. Prime Minister Kishida has announced an increase of defense budget from the current 1% of GDP to almost 2% by 2027. UK. They had to refresh their integrated review actually, which they had done only in 2021, and they have come out with a refreshed integrated review in 2023, which describes this particular time in the world as an epoch-defining challenge being posed by China, and proposes to add another £5 billion in the next 2 years And they want to increase their GDP, which they spend on the defense, from 2 to about 2.2%. Russia, owing to the conflict in Europe, Russia's spending on internal and external security is likely to be increased by 25% and would be more than $132 billion. China, in order to continue with forced modernization of the People's Liberation Army, China's defense budget has been increased by 7.2% March this year. Germany, in February last year, German Chancellor Scholz called the conflict in Ukraine as living through a Zeitenwende, which literally means a turning point in history. He went on to unveil additional funding of 100 billion euros and a commitment to spend about 2% of the GDP on defense. Poland, another country, which has now emerged as a frontline state, is thinking of increasing its expenditure on defense from 3% of the GDP to almost about 5% of the GDP. Look at Czech Republic, which is another country nearby. They're changing the whole equipment paradigm. Whatever the hell was of Soviet or Russian origin is going back to Ukraine, and they're arming themselves with a new set of equipment which is Western in origin. South Korea, in midterm defense plan 23-27, announced on 28th of December last year, South Korea will be spending close to $269 billion US dollars in the next 5 years, which would be an annual increase of almost about 6.8%. And I've just spoken about countries where traditionally there has been no conflict actually. We haven't even touched Africa and Asia, where the conflict is perennial and perpetual. So the structure of global defense industry consists of mutually self-supporting nations and is characterized by multiple supply chains involving hundreds of suppliers. I'm not sure if the global defense industry is geared to meet this surge in demand which I just spoken about. Furthermore, black swan events, like pandemics, COVID pandemic, the Western sanctions against the Russians have already exposed the vulnerability of global supply chains, thereby affecting the operational preparedness of most of the armed forces. This churning in the defense industry and defense supply chains is leading to increased anxiety among security providers and strategists alike throughout the world. If I were to sum up the emerging trends in the area of defense capabilities, I would say that, firstly, there is a huge possibility of disruptions in the global supply chains due to unexpected surge in the demands and likely disruptions which could be caused due to events like pandemics, political or military crisis. The capabilities and intent, secondly, of major arms exporting nations may witness major realignment in times to come. Nations by themselves are also looking at diversifying their capabilities to cater for a long conventional kind of a war and for a short duration high-tech kind of a conflict. Technology, especially its disruptive character, is changing the nature of combat, thus putting armed forces under increased strain to modernize and innovate. Obsolescence management is becoming a challenge for most armies. Lastly, I can visualize a huge demand emerging for military equipment and hardware, not only in Asia, but also in Europe. In such a situation, actually, the indigenous defense ecosystem is the safest bet for us because it guarantees assured supplies. Self-reliance and reducing import dependency is important for India to maintain its strategic autonomy and shoulder new responsibilities commensurate to its size and its economy. Even the whole economics of it actually makes sense because in India, it makes physical sense because in India there's a huge market. We got a recurring requirement and the numbers are always huge. Apart from the challenges, there's also, I see, as a big opportunity emerging as part of the global defense supply chains and about which we must become a part of. In order to meet the challenges posed by conventional and non-conventional threats, I believe that Atmanirbharta is the only mantra. Atmanirbharta, in my view, looks beyond the domain of production, procurement, and supplies, or what is referred to as Make in India. I think there is a need for deeper introspection into this world itself, that Atmanirbharta. The world means more than self-reliance. In fact, actually, it would mean self-realization. Look at the word itself, Atmanirbharta, the first part, Atman, actually it focuses on yourself, understanding yourself. So self-realization, self-actualization actually is a part of this word, Atmanirbharta. So its remit is beyond self-reliance in defense manufacturing. It is evolving an Indian thought process, Indian ideas, Indian concepts, Indian strategy, and Indian weapon system to meet challenges that are specific to our nation. We need to draw inspiration from a rich history and diversified culture to ensure that our strategies, operational art, and tactics are simulated by Indian thoughts, ideas, and are suitable to our environment. Defense manufacturing or self-reliance is an important concept. Of course, I told you that the remit is far beyond actually being self-reliance only. But then self-reliance is an important part of Atmanirbharta. At the same time, I must imply that self-reliance does not mean that we work in isolation from rest of the world. The goal of self-reliance can only be achieved through active participation of domestic and global, civil as well as government defense sector, working together to make India a defense production hub. The size of our armed forces, standing at 1 million plus strong, juxtaposed with a huge inventory of simple to complex equipment, provides the very viable and attractive market for an opportunity for all to take part in it. A journey needs to evolve from actually make in India to make in India for India and for the whole world. Now let me talk about a few policy initiatives that have been taken by the government in this regard. The government has adopted a whole of nation approach and has undertaken several policy initiatives brought in reforms to encourage indigenous design, development and manufacture of defense equipment. Some of these initiatives are the simplification of industrial licensing system, with a longer validity period. Increase in foreign direct investment FDI limit to about 74%. Notification of 4 positive indigenization list, almost with about 411 items. Earmarking funds for research and development and providing financial support to MSMEs and encouraging participation by the local industry. Earmarking 75% of our capital procurement budget through domestic industry, and last year we did achieve it in the financial year which is just gone by. And encouraging the private industry in defense manufacturing and providing them with a level kind of a playing field. The government has also established dedicated defense industrial corridors in Tamil Nadu and Uttar Pradesh. Investment worth 2,200 crores have already been made in Uttar Pradesh and about 3,800 in the Tamil Nadu Defense Industrial Corridor. The Defense Acquisition Policy 2020 introduced a slew of conceptual, structural, and procedural reforms in the acquisition procedure, which has created an environment in which industry is playing a vital role to meet the operational and security needs of the armed forces. It encourages ease of doing business and emphasizes on simplification, delegation, reduction in timelines, and making the process as industry friendly as possible. There are a couple of other initiatives which have been taken jointly by the Ministry of Defense and the services themselves. Innovation for Defense Excellence, IDEX, was launched to foster innovation and technological development in defense, aerospace, and engineering, and engaging MSMEs, startups, individual innovators, R&D institutes, academia, etc. Under this particular program, we've covered a long way actually. We've identified almost about 256 odd challenges we've given to the industry to innovate and give it to the services. We've introduced this Defense Innovation Startup Challenges, DISC 1 to 9. A couple of them were specific to aerospace industry, some were for cyber. The Navy has come out with their own. We have this DISC Prime, in which the funding was increased for this people who win this competition from 1.5 crores to almost about 10 crores. And grants of almost about 2,000 crores have been given to all these innovators who have won competitions or met these challenges which the services have identified. And that's not all. Secretary DRDO is here. They have also introduced this Technology Development Fund as an initiative to promote young entrepreneurs And as on date, this scheme has almost about 165 technologies which are being internalized and has provided funding to almost about 254 crores. Features such as Dare to Dream, Project Monitoring Group, and Shared IPR makes TDF, Technology Development Fund, an attractive scheme to enable our industry to contribute in greater measure to defense modernization at a rapid pace. Now we'll talk about what has been the success of these kind of initiatives that the government has put in place, or what services they have actually put in place. It's very heartening to see that the government vision has been supported by the DPSUs, private industry, MSMEs, as well as the three services. Today, our defense industry is already manufacturing wide variety of military hardware, such as tanks, armored vehicles, guns, fighter aircraft, helicopters, warships, submarines, missiles, radars, EW systems, and much more to meet the requirements of the defense forces, as well as for exports. This has led to an increased share of domestic procurement, which has been on the uptrend. In 2018, the share of domestic procurement used to be 54%. The same has increased to 68%, about which I just mentioned, and 25% of this 68% actually has gone to the private sector and not to DPSUs. Towards enduring sustenance of the existing inventory, the Directorate of Indianization in the Army, Naval Innovation and Indianization Cell, the Indian Air Force base repair depots have Indianized more than 96,000 products and spent more than 600 crores on this. This aspect of Indianization of spares, maintenance, repair and overhaul, MRO, midlife upgrade and life extension of the existing inventory of the armed forces will find major attention and impetus by the services in the next few years. What I initially spoke to you about, that IDEX and TDF, etc. challenges, they were more looking at innovative kind of things. They were not looking at in-service equipment and the maintenance of that. I think that now the focus will be on maintaining this particular equipment through Indianized kind of means. It will have its own challenges, but that's where the focus would be now. I believe that defense manufacturing is the new sunrise sector that will witness a major growth in the near future. To elucidate my point, I take the example of the 4 positive Indianization lists. As of December 2022, out of the 411 items which I mentioned, contracts have been awarded for 63 and acceptance of necessity has been accorded for another 127 items, which have a combined value of more than 3,44,000 crores. These PILs, in my view, are expected to generate business over 9 lakh crores over the next 10 years if we are able to produce all this, what I mentioned in the PILs, through the defense industries, our own domestic industry. During the recently concluded Aero India 2023, it was heartening to note that the defense aerospace industry has come of age. As many as 700 domestic companies participated in this particular event. Overwhelming response and innovative solutions by the startups and innovators was indicative of the positive effect of policy measures undertaken by ABODI and the services. This was a good forum which brought together policymakers, users, development agencies, and production partners on a common platform. This has also given rise, to defense exports, about which now we'll make a brief mention. So these government initiatives such as ease of defense industrial licensing, relaxation in export controls, line of credit for foreign countries to import defense products, realignment of the offset policy has given impetus also to defense exports. We have set defense export target of almost about $5 billion by 2024. Today we have more than 100 items which we are exporting to almost about 85 countries. The value of all this for this particular financial year has reached to almost about 16,000 crores, and that's a major change. And 80% of this actually, whatever defense exports has been done, has been by the private industry and not by the defense PSUs. Traditionally, the requirement of military has driven innovation, and the same has found civil application later. Internet, radar, digital photography, satellite navigation, and many such innovations were initially designed to meet the requirements of the armed forces. However, owing to the pace of technological changes and its adaptation, there is a paradigm shift wherein the academia innovates, industry produces, and the military adapts. Therefore, in order to catapult a nation into a hub of innovation, manufacturing, self-reliance, and becoming a net exporter of defense equipment, the troika of academicians, industry, and military practitioners will have to work in close sync with each other. Our defense industry is on the runway, gathering speed to take off and reach greater heights. Our combined goals can be achieved only through working together, investing in defense R&D, and encouraging innovation. There's an old saying, think big, start small, and be prepared to upscale. To conclude, I leave you with what the Honorable Prime Minister has said during Defense Expo 2022, and I quote, "You innovate, take a pledge to be the best in the world, and give shape to the dreams of a strong, developed India. You'll always find me there." By this he meant the whole of the nation will be supporting you, they'll be behind you. With these thoughts, I wish big success to the conclave and look forward from hearing more about the proceedings as we see our nation grow from strength to strength. Thank you and Jai Hind.